Hey, what is up, guys? Pineball Beer Reviews back here again with you today for another one, and I'm in my kitchen today, about to cook up some beef and noodle soup, and I was going to crack a beer anyway while I was doing that, so I decided why not bring my computer here, bring my camera in here, and go ahead and just dive into it for another beer review, because this is one that is new. It's from Southern Prohibition. They're putting out all kinds of stuff now with their Rotator series, which is just the sort of limited edition experimental beers that they kind of brew up and then just kind of put out with these kind of little black and usually like the label has a color on it. This one is their Kolsch brewed with chamomile and lime. I can just say that it's the same can that they do with all these, just their SPB black rotator can, and then they have, this is actually, I could probably take this off if I wanted to, just a label that they stuck around here with a color coded kind of thing, just to kind of show what it is. I believe it's 4.6%. Yeah, 4.6% ABV, German style ale. And Kolsch's are kind of like these very light, drinkable kind of ales, brewed in a German style, usually German malts and yeast and all that kind of stuff. I'm not really sure if that's the case with this one. It's the last one of this little 4-pack pick six that I got over the weekend, and was going to go ahead and just crack it open and see what we get. It doesn't have a review yet or any rating on Beer Advocate from the bros or the community, though there were 2 reviews on there, and they were about 3.85 and a 4.05, I believe, for the rating out of 5. On Untapped, it gets 3.6. I actually had this one Saturday night, Sunday night, no, Friday night, excuse me. I had this one Friday night. It is Sunday evening now, but I can't really say I had an opinion of it because it wasn't really fair, because I'd had like a couple beers before I tried this one. I was trying a few out at one of the local taverns here, and this was the last one I had. So I had too much, other lingering flavors from other beers in my mouth. This is first beer of the day, so let's go ahead and try it out with a clean, refreshed palate and see what we get from it. Usually I do not drink very many Kolsches just because I don't come across them as often as other German-style ales and such as Hefeweizens. I come across those more often, though I haven't been seeing those as much recently either. This is a local one, brewed locally by a brewery that I very much like, not just because it's in the same city that I live in, but because they put out decent stuff, and I'm very curious as to what they do with a Kolsch with their own style. So with that pour, you get about a finger of very fizzy, soapy head. It's probably going to dissipate very quickly, and somewhat of a hazy appearance, though it's slightly clear. It's got a bit of a golden sort of straw color to it, very yellow in color, and a good amount of bubbles streaming up from the bottom of this etched Sierra Nevada pint glass. Well, pint glass, I believe it's only 16 ounces, or if that, maybe 14 ounces. So American pint, I guess. Yeah, it looks just kind of like a typical Kolsch, or really any kind of straw-colored beer would look in a glass. So let's go ahead and go for the aroma on it. Definitely getting the lime. That's really the most distinguishable thing I can get. This is fairly cold. I just got it out of the fridge back here, so. Though Kolsch's, usually I don't believe you drink them at any sort of warmer room, near room temp. I think they're usually supposed to be served fairly cold. A little bit of grassiness, but overall very subtle in the aroma. Mostly getting that lime juice. Chamomile on its own is a very subtle. It can be very subtly have a very subtle flavor. It can have a very. I drink chamomile tea sometimes, so I'm familiar with it, the flavor of it and the aroma of it, and it's usually very mild as well. and then getting a little bit of malt sweetness in there with the aroma too. So let's go ahead and go for the most important part, the flavor on this. Cheers. Now, I had this one on tap when I did have it earlier this weekend, so I was interested also to see how it would taste just coming out of a can, sitting in a can, rather than a keg, because oftentimes beers do taste different, at least to me, between being served them out of a keg as opposed to just opening them up from like a can, or especially like a glass bottle. The previous time I had this from the keg, it tasted much cleaner, meaning very filtered, very bright. Was getting much more of a lime flavor with it, much more of a just overall just sort of mild kind of just beer flavor. It just tasted like a very crisp, clean, almost lager type of ale. The lagers and ales are two separate styles, I know that, but it tasted almost kind of like a very crisp lager. This is a bit different. I'm getting a bit more body from it out of the can, as opposed to what I was getting it out of the keg. Not really sure why. And while I can taste more, or while I can smell more of the lime in the aroma, I'm getting actually a good bit of chamomile in the flavor, which is nice. And chamomile just has this very flowery, just sort of very mellow kind of floral flavor to it. It usually goes very good with honey. I don't know if they brewed any honey in this. I'm assuming not with the lime in there, but I could almost say that they could, if they wanted to, take the lime out, make a Kolsch with honey and this chamomile, and that would be very nice. If they really doubled down on maybe the chamomile flavor, and then had some honey in there, sort of backing it up a little bit. But still a very mild flavor with it. It's very present, the chamomile, and a little bit of the lime. I can get a little bit of the lime too, but it's very subtle, very easy drinking. The body is kind of a light to medium. It's light verging on medium, and the carbonation isn't too bad. I know I always say that on my videos, and then I've tried to speak through like multiple belches. I'm terrible with belching with like drinking beer. I do it like constantly. With this, I'm not really getting it, which is nice because now I can actually speak a little smoother rather than having to stop to hold down all the carbonation all the time. But the aftertaste is not very it's not very prominent. It's the finish is very very wet, very drinkable. It is almost it's verging on a regular. There come the belches. It is based on it's almost towards a regular strength beer, but it is kind of still fairly light, very sessionable. This could definitely be a session ale for sure, given the mildness of the flavor, while still being prominent and easy drinking and pleasant. It's a very just flowery, subtle kind of ale with that nice little kick from the the lime juice that's also there, but not too crazy or too overbearing whatsoever. The Dogfish Head Sequence Ale that I had, I did a review on here a couple weeks ago, was way more lime. That was, like I said I believe I said on that video, it's almost as if you take some sort of lager or like a Red Stripe or something like that and just squeeze fresh lime juice straight into it. This is definitely, I can just tell, was brewed with some lime juice, but it's not as it's so much at the forefront, which I kind of prefer. I'd rather have more chamomile and chamomile flavoring in a Kolsch rather than lime flavoring. That's just my personal taste. But the overall, the mouthfeel, the finish is very light. Let's go ahead and go for one more and see if we can get much more out of this. Yeah, really just chamomile and lime. A little bit of grassiness, but not very hoppy whatsoever. There's almost I would almost feel safe in saying that there's probably very little, if any, hops in this particular ale, which is a first for Southern Prohibition. They really like to pump a lot of hops into their brews. This one, on the other hand, like I said, barely any hops detected. It's really just a more floral, kind of almost like sort of medicinal kind of flavor, kind of thing with the chamomile and the style of the Kolsch. But overall, it's not bad. Definitely not one of my favorites from SoPro. I do kind of like their more bolder ales and bolder brews. This one is very subtle, very mild. A good summer drinker, though, I would say, which I believe that this is just something they're doing for the summer. If you see it, though, it's got the green label with the Kolsch lime and chamomile on it, with the black can, the SPB badge there on the can as well. I give it a solid B. I've had other Kolsch's that I think are better, but this one is not bad at all, and definitely easy drinking, and will be really nice to drink on while making this soup. So I'm gonna go ahead and get to that, and until next time, guys, thank you for watching.